We agreed that we'd meet outside St Andrew's Church in Westland Row at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. Some of us got mass that morning there, and we proceeded along to the house. Knocked at the door. The servant opened the door, and I said I want to see Captain Bennett or Lieutenant Ames. And she went to close the door, and I just put my foot in. And as I went to the folding doors, your man went for his pillow. He had a 45 Colt automatic under the pillow. I put the tune up against the wall. I said, the Lord have mercy on your souls.
This is a story of deception and assassination. A bitter fight for independence fought out in the streets of the capital.
The war is for Dublin. The people who control Dublin control Ireland.
Against the odds, a handful of determined and ruthless men showed that Britain could not hold Ireland by force of arms.
It was grim business for a group of young men who were perfecting a new form of warfare.
But in the intelligence war, nothing was what it seemed. While the two sides fought it out, evidence has now emerged of secret contacts between the British government and the IRA.
The fear that an Irish leader might be duped by the Machiavellian British.
And at the heart of those contacts was Ireland's most wanted man, Michael Collins. (1916). The week-long rising ends with Dublin in flames, the rebel outpost cut off and forced to surrender. The Republican ideal seemed in ruins.
It was a complete stunning surprise when it exploded in '16. They swooped on everybody all over the country.
There had been deportations of thousands of people to English prisons and to detention camps in places like Frongoch in North Wales.
They bundled them all together in Frongoch. They were young, hungry, ardent, very energetic. The British have shot the other people, and they've left probably the most dangerous single man alive.
Few then could have seen the threat posed by an obscure volunteer from West Cork, a survivor of the GPO, Michael Collins.
It may have appeared to many that he emerged from nowhere. In fact, he had been quietly working his way through the Republican ranks in the Irish in London in the years prior to 1916.
During his time in London, Collins had joined the IRB, the Irish Republican Brotherhood. This was the organisation dedicated to achieving an Irish republic by force.
In Frongoch, I think we start to see him coming through very strongly. And of course, he makes some very key friendships within Frongoch.
He's got a presence. He's adept at manipulating people. He's someone to whom other people gravitate.
Those people who'd survived the Rising and who'd been locked up in Frongoch camp essentially were part of a nucleus of what was to become the intelligence structure of the IRA.
At the end of 1916, the Prime Minister, Lloyd George, amnesties the people in Frongoch. The most senior Republicans are kept at Lewis Prison in England. Collins, therefore, is able to return to Ireland. In advance of these people, he decides to make Dublin, where the real action was, his home for the future, and he's got a head start on the people in Lewis, and that's a head start that he never loses. Collins was never a man to waste an opportunity.
In 1917, he acquires a crucial position whereby he was made secretary to essentially the Prisoner Dependence Fund.
Word of mouth said that if you were in Dublin, Collins was the man to be talking to. People were getting their cheques signed by Collins.
As Collins made his way through the Republican ranks, the cause itself was beginning to attract popular support.
A by-election here, a meeting there, gradually getting bolder and the meetings getting more rambunctious.
That continues right up to the general election of December 1918. The Sinn Féin landslide of December is really a vote not for armed rebellion, but for a vague concept of freedom. There was, however, a radical minority who had a very, very different plan for the future, which was a resumption of the armed struggle. But that was something which they kept very carefully hidden.
At just 28, Collins now held key positions within the movement. As Minister of Finance, he controlled the purse strings. Behind the scenes, he prepared the IRA for war.
He was quite clear that he was going to resume war. And he realised that you could come along and take a building like the GPO and they just encircle you and blast you out with heavy weaponry.
If they did not have the advantage of military superiority over the British, which they didn't, they could even it up by at least closing down the knowledge gap, and intelligence, he believed, was the key.
In June, De Valera departed for America, a tour that would keep him from Ireland for a crucial 18 months. By then, Collins had added one final secret role: IRA Director of Intelligence.
The previous holder of the position, he really did no more than run effectively a press cuttings operation. Collins has something much more lethally effective in mind.
The war is for Dublin. People who control Dublin control Ireland. All the administration, everything else is centralised here. Nowhere else counts for a candle.
He was a great conspirator, an arch conspirator, and he was the pioneer. He invented modern urban guerrilla warfare.
You see, it was an extraordinary chance they took. It was an extraordinary effort to try and get independence. Not just dangerous, but people would say crazy.
The British intelligence system in Ireland had a tremendous reputation. One of Collins's moulds described it as the most perfect intelligence system that the world had ever seen.
The policeman was the key, the cornerstone of the whole British system.
In every parish, there was a police agent. In every town, there were maybe 6 agents. And they knew even what you were thinking of. They knew what you had for your breakfast, dinner, and supper if you had it.
And everything he's met during the day, it all went down in the station record, and it was then sent off up back to the G-men.
The G-men were the men of G Division of the Dublin Metropolitan Police, which was essentially the detective unit for political crime. They were experienced. They saw themselves as the elite of the Dublin Metropolitan Police, and to a large extent, they were. Collins identified the need to attack that elite, to take out the intelligence gathering operations of the police force in Dublin, which was, of course, the Storm Centre.
He evolved a philosophy which he later articulated as the British can always replace a spy, but the new man can't step into the dead man's shoes and his knowledge. If you just killed one man, you blinded a whole army unit.
In July 1919, Collins and the commander of the IRA's Dublin Brigade called a meeting of hand-picked volunteers drawn from across the city.
We were told that it was proposed to form a squad. Collins told us that we were being formed to deal with spies and informers, and that he had the authority from the government to have this matter carried out.
The basic idea behind forming the squad was that he would have a tactical, full-time, dedicated group who trained specifically for the task of assassinations.
Outside their homes, outside their churches.
The